The Blue Mountains Investigation, a cryptozoologist's account. Marion and Michael Thatcher, independent cryptozoologists. Field report Yowie of the Blue Mountains. New South Wales, Australia. March-April 2029. Prologue. Marion's account. We're doing this together. That's the sentence I keep repeating to myself as I board the flight to Sydney. Michael and I are doing this together. After 7 years of working separately, after the Mothman disaster and the long silence and the careful, painful rebuilding of trust, we're finally investigating as partners again. I'm terrified, not of the Yowie. I've faced the Wendigo, been hunted by the Dogman, stood my ground against creatures that wanted me dead. The Yowie is reportedly reclusive, more curious than aggressive, similar to North American Bigfoot reports. If it exists, it's a creature I can respect and document without the existential terror of Michigan. No, I'm terrified of working with Michael again. Terrified that he'll slip back into old patterns. Terrified that I'll be too controlling, too cautious, unable to let him take risks even when they're calculated. Terrified that we've both changed so much in 7 years that we don't fit together anymore as partners. But we're doing this together anyway, because Michael has earned it. His work in New Jersey and Cornwall showed genuine growth. His role as backup during the Dogman investigation, staying ready, responding when I called, never once questioning my judgment or pushing for more involvement than I offered, showed patience and respect. And because I miss him, not just as a research partner but as my twin brother. We've spent 7 years processing our childhood trauma separately, and it's time to finally face it together. The Yowie investigation will test us. 2 months in the Australian wilderness, working with Aboriginal communities, tracking something that may or may not exist in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. We'll either prove we can work together, or we'll discover we're better apart. I'm hoping for the former, preparing for the latter. Michael is meeting me at Sydney Airport. I haven't seen him in person since Point Pleasant in 2022. 7 years. We've talked on the phone, exchanged emails, consulted on methodology. But we haven't stood in the same room, looked each other in the eye, existed in the same physical space. That's about to change. The plane is descending. Sydney's harbor is visible below, the Opera House gleaming white in the afternoon sun. In 30 minutes, I'll see my brother again. God, I hope this works. Prologue. Michael's account. I'm waiting at Sydney Airport arrivals with a sign that says, Dr. Marion Thatcher, cryptozoologist extraordinaire. Because I'm nervous and making jokes is how I handle being nervous. She's going to hate the sign. She's going to tell me I'm being ridiculous, that we don't need signs, that I should have just texted her like a normal person. And I'm going to tell her that normal is overrated and we're about to spend 2 months tracking a creature that probably doesn't exist, so we might as well start with a smile. That's our dynamic. That's always been our dynamic. Push, she pulls. I joke, she steadies. I leap, she calculates. When we were kids, before that night in the Adirondacks, before everything got complicated, it worked perfectly. I'm hoping it can work again. I've been in Australia for 3 days already, getting equipment sorted, making initial contact with local researchers, scouting the Blue Mountains region. I offered to wait so we could arrive together, but Marion said she needed time alone before diving into partnership. Fair enough. She's been the cautious one since we were 12 years old. 7 years. 7 years since we stood in Point Pleasant and I chose my ego over her wisdom. 7 years since I watched the Mothman phenomenon disappear because I made it too famous to survive. 7 years since my twin sister looked at me with disappointment and walked away. I've spent those 7 years trying to become someone she could trust again. The Jersey Devil investigation, keeping evidence private. The Owlman research, working with conservation groups. The dozen smaller investigations I've done quietly, without fanfare, prioritizing creatures over recognition. All of it building toward this moment. Marion trusting me enough to work together again. I cannot screw this up. The arrivals board shows her flight has landed. She'll be through customs soon. I'm gripping this ridiculous sign too tightly, my palms sweating despite Sydney's autumn chill. And then I see her. She looks the same. Older, obviously, we're both 36 now, not the kids who saw something impossible in the Adirondacks, but the same Marion. Dark hair pulled back practically, dressed for fieldwork, not fashion. Backpack slung over one shoulder, moving with that careful, observant way she has of navigating crowds. She sees me, sees the sign, and despite everything, the years, the hurt, the distance, she smiles. Extraordinaire, she says as she approaches. Really? You are extraordinary. Figured you should be reminded. You're an idiot. Agreed. Ready to track a possibly imaginary ape through the Australian wilderness. Let's do this. We don't hug. That would be too much too soon. But we stand there for a moment, twins reunited on the other side of the world, and something settles. Something that's been fractured for 7 years begins, tentatively, to heal. We're doing this together. Day 1, Marian's account. The drive from Sydney to the Blue Mountains takes about 2 hours, and Michael talks for approximately 1 hour and 55 minutes of it. He's nervous, I realize, covering anxiety with chatter, filling the silence before it can become uncomfortable. I let him. It's good to hear his voice in person rather than filtered through phone lines or compressed into emails. It's good to be reminded that beneath the bravado and the jokes, Michael is fundamentally a good person trying very hard to do better. He catches me up on his recent work, a Mothman follow-up in West Virginia, from a distance, respectfully, some consultation work with the British Cryptozoology Society, preliminary research on the Thunderbird reports in Native American territories. All of it measured, careful, ethical. You've been busy, I say, trying to stay sharp. Didn't want to show up here rusty and useless. You were never useless, Michael. Just reckless. Was. Past tense. I'm reformed now. Mostly. Like 85% reformed. Only 85%? I needed to earn it. I needed to prove I'd changed. You were right to make me work for it. We sit in comfortable silence, and I feel something I haven't felt in 7 years. Complete. Like a part of me that's been missing has finally returned. Tomorrow we start the actual investigation. But tonight this is enough. Day 2, Michael's account. Tommy Nguyen meets us at a cafe in Katoomba. He's in his 60s, with graying hair and the kind of presence that makes you sit up straighter and pay attention. Marian does most of the talking, explaining our research carefully, emphasizing respect and conservation. I mostly just listen and try not to say anything stupid. Tien, your brother told me you're twins. You work together often? Marian, we used to. We're rebuilding our partnership. 10. Had a falling out? Michael, I screwed up an investigation. Destroyed something I should have protected. Marian's giving me another chance. Tommy studies us both, and I feel like he's seeing more than we're saying. The Yowie is important to our people. Not sacred in the way some things are, but significant. Part of the landscape, part of the stories we tell about how to live in these mountains. Marian, we understand. We're not here to exploit or sensationalize. We want to document whether the Yowie exists, and if it does, to advocate for its protection. Tien, my grandfather spoke of them, called them Dulagal in our language, big fella, hairy man. Said they lived in the deepest parts of the bush, that they avoided people but sometimes would watch from a distance. Curious but cautious. Marian, did your grandfather see one himself? Tien, multiple times. He was a ranger, spent his life in these mountains. He said the Yowie were real, not myth. As real as kangaroos or wombats, just rarer and more careful about being seen. Michael, are there still sightings? Tien, occasional. Hikers see something in the trees, hear calls that don't match known animals, find tracks that are too large and wrong-shaped for any creature we've cataloged. Most people dismiss it, but some of us know better. Marian, would you be willing to show us where sightings have occurred? Tien, I can show you areas where my grandfather encountered them. Whether they're still there, I can't say. But the habitat is right. Deep bush, water sources, caves in the cliffs where they might shelter. If they're still in these mountains, that's where they'd be. He agrees to guide us into the wilderness starting tomorrow. 3 weeks hiking through some of the most remote parts of the Blue Mountains, far from trails and tourist areas, into country that Tommy says hasn't changed much in thousands of years. After the meeting, Marian and I prep our gear. We're carrying everything we'll need for 3 weeks: tents, Food, water purification, medical supplies, and all our research equipment. It's going to be physically demanding. You ready for this? I ask Marion. I've done harder. The Wendigo investigation was 2 weeks in sub-zero temperatures. This is autumn in Australia. Yeah, but we weren't partners during the Wendigo investigation. This is different. She looks at me. Are you worried we can't work together? I'm worried I'll disappoint you again. Michael, you're going to make mistakes. So am I. That's not the issue. The issue is how we handle mistakes. If you screw up and I screw up and we can still work through it, that's partnership. And if we can't, then we come back separately next time. But I think we can. I think we're finally ready. I hope she's right. Day 35, Marion's account. The first 3 days of hiking are beautiful and exhausting. Tommy leads us through terrain that challenges even experienced hikers. Steep descents into valleys, scrambles over rock faces, river crossings on fallen logs. The Blue Mountains earned their name, and they're not making it easy. Michael is in his element. He's always been more physically confident than me, more comfortable with the adventure aspects of fieldwork. He helps me across difficult sections, carries extra weight when I'm flagging, keeps spirits up with terrible jokes. I'd forgotten how good he is at this part. While I'm the better researcher and analyst, Michael excels at the actual fieldwork, navigation, camp setup, physical endurance. We balance each other. Tommy watches our dynamic with interest. On the third night, while Michael is filtering water at a nearby stream, Tommy says to me, "You two work well together. Natural partnership. We used to fight constantly when we were younger. That's what siblings do. But you trust him with your life out here. That's not something you fake." He's right. Despite my anxieties about this partnership, despite 7 years of working separately, I do trust Michael in the field. He's proven himself reliable, careful when it matters, willing to defer to better judgment. The question is whether that translates to the research aspects, the ethical decisions, the moments when impulse and caution conflict. On day 5, we reach the area Tommy calls deep country, a remote valley far from any trails, surrounded by cliffs and thick forest. This is where his grandfather encountered Yowie multiple times. If they're still in these mountains, they're here, Tommy says. We'll establish base camp and begin systematic observation. That night, setting up camp, Michael and I work together with the efficiency of people who've done this 1,000 times. Tents up, fire started, food prepared, equipment organized. No discussion needed, we just know the rhythm. Like riding a bike, Michael says. A very expensive, potentially dangerous bike that might not even exist. The best kind of bike. Despite my nervousness about this partnership, despite all my careful planning and boundary setting, working with Michael feels right. Natural. Like coming home after a long absence. I'm starting to believe we can actually do this. Day 6-8, Michael's account. We've been in deep country for 3 days, and I'm trying very hard not to be the impulsive idiot who rushes ahead and ruins everything. It's harder than it sounds. The valley is perfect Yowie habitat. Water from multiple streams, caves in the cliff faces, thick forest providing cover, abundant wildlife suggesting a healthy ecosystem. If something large and reclusive wanted to survive here undetected, it absolutely could. Marion has established a systematic observation protocol. Trail cameras at strategic points, audio recorders running continuously, regular surveys of the area for tracks or other physical evidence. It's methodical and thorough. It's also slow, really slow. I'm used to more active investigation, covering ground quickly, checking multiple locations, following leads immediately. Marion's approach is more patient. Stay in one area, observe carefully, wait for the creature to reveal itself. On day 7, I suggest we split up to cover more ground. Marion immediately says no. We stay together. That's the protocol. But we could cover twice as much area, and if something happens to one of us, the other won't know for hours. We stay together. I want to argue. The old Michael would have argued. But Marion's right. Splitting up in remote wilderness is stupid, and I promise to defer to her judgment on safety protocols. Okay, together it is. She looks surprised that I back down so easily. Really? No pushback. You're right about safety. I might be 85% reformed, but I'm not suicidal. We stay together. Thank you. That night, Tommy tells us stories his grandfather told him. Encounters with Yowie over decades of ranging in these mountains. The creatures were described as tall, 7 to 8 feet, covered in reddish-brown hair, with a powerful build and a face that was ape-like but with human qualities. My grandfather said they were intelligent, Tommy explains. Not just animal intelligence. They understood human behavior, avoided confrontation, seemed to have social structures. He saw groups multiple times, adults and juveniles together, suggesting family units. Did your grandfather think they were dangerous? Marion asks. Only if threatened. He said they were powerful enough to kill a man easily, but they chose not to. They preferred to avoid humans entirely. It's reassuring. The Wendigo was actively hostile. The Dogman was aggressive when encountered. The Yowie sounds more like the skunk ape, reclusive, peaceful, wanting nothing to do with humans. On day 8, we find our first evidence, tracks. Day 8, Marion's account. The tracks are in soft soil near a stream, clear and fresh, probably made within the last day or two. They're large, approximately 17 inches long, humanoid in shape but with distinctions from human feet. Wider toe spread, deeper heel impression, evidence of a mid-foot flexibility that suggests a foot adapted for climbing and rough terrain. Michael wants to follow them immediately. I want to document thoroughly first. Marion, they're fresh. If we follow now, we might catch up. If we follow now, we might spook it and never see it again. We document first, then we plan our approach. We could lose the trail. Michael, I make my voice firm. Document first. That's the protocol. I can see him struggling with it, the impulse to chase, to pursue, to act rather than analyze. But he takes a breath and nods. You're right. Document first. We spend 2 hours photographing the tracks from multiple angles, making measurements, taking soil samples, creating plaster casts. It's tedious work, especially knowing the creature could be moving further away with every passing minute. But it's the right work, the thorough work, the work that produces defensible evidence rather than exciting stories. When we finally track the prints, they lead up a rocky slope and disappear on harder ground. We lose the trail within half a mile. We lost it because we were too slow, Michael says, frustration clear in his voice. We have documentation of the tracks because we were methodical. That's more valuable than maybe possibly catching a glimpse of something we couldn't photograph anyway. Is it, though? We're here to find the Yowie, not just prove it has feet. We're here to document the Yowie responsibly. That means patience, even when it's frustrating. Tommy, who's been watching this exchange quietly, speaks up. Your sister is right, Michael. The Yowie has lived here for thousands of years. It's not going anywhere. Patience is how you find them, not by chasing, but by waiting until they're ready to be seen. Michael doesn't argue further, but I can see the tension in his shoulders. This is the conflict I was afraid of, his impulse toward action versus my caution toward method. We're going to have to navigate this carefully, or it will tear the partnership apart again. Day 9, Michael's account. I screwed up. Marion and I were surveying a different section of the valley, and I saw something moving in the trees about 50 yards away. Large, dark, definitely not a kangaroo or any known animal. I did exactly what I shouldn't have done. I moved toward it quickly without signaling Marion, without planning the approach. I got maybe 20 yards before Marion hissed, "Michael, stop!" But the damage was done. Whatever I'd seen crashed away through the underbrush, moving fast, disappearing in seconds. I caught a brief glimpse. Upright posture, dark reddish fur, significantly taller than human, before it was gone. Marion reached my position, breathless and furious. "What the hell were you thinking?" "I saw something." "So you chased it? Without telling me? Without any plan or backup?" "I wasn't chasing. I was approaching. Recklessly." "You approached recklessly, and you scared it away. And now we've lost any chance of careful observation because you couldn't control your impulse to act." "She's right. I know she's right." The old Michael surged forward and screwed everything up. just like in Point Pleasant, just like always. Marion, I'm sorry. I saw it and I just reacted. That's the problem. You react instead of think. We're supposed to be partners, which means communicating, planning, working together. Not you running off alone the second something interesting happens. Tommy catches up to us, assesses the situation, and diplomatically suggests we return to camp to regroup. The hike back is silent and miserable. That evening, Marion doesn't talk to me. She's organizing equipment, checking cameras, doing busy work to avoid conversation. I can feel the disappointment radiating off her. Finally, I can't take it anymore. Marion, I'm sorry. Really, genuinely sorry. I screwed up. I let impulse override judgment. And I scared away our best opportunity so far. It's not just that you scared it away. Her voice is quiet, controlled. It's that you didn't even think to include me. You saw something and you just went, like I wasn't even here, like we weren't partners. That's exactly it, Michael. This only works if we actually work together. Not you doing your thing and me doing mine in the same area. Together. Do you understand the difference? I do. I really do. Do you? Because this is exactly the pattern that destroyed our partnership the first time. You acting alone, prioritizing the moment over the plan, leaving me scrambling to deal with the consequences. She's right. Again. Always right. And I'm the screw-up who keeps making the same mistakes. What do you need from me? Ask. Tell me what you need, and I'll do it. I need you to pause. When you see something, when you want to act, I need you to pause for 5 seconds and think. Is this smart? Should I communicate with Marion first? What are the consequences? Can you do that? Yes. 5 seconds. Pause and think. I can do that. Can you really? I have to. Because losing this partnership again would destroy me. You're more important than any cryptid, Marion. I'll prove that. She's quiet for a long moment. Then, okay, one more chance. But Michael, next time you run off alone, we're done. Not just this investigation. Done. Understand. Understood. It won't happen again. It better not. Day 1012. Marion's account. Michael is trying. Visibly, obviously trying. When we hear sounds in the forest, he looks at me first before moving. When he sees something interesting, he points it out and waits for discussion before approaching. He's putting the 5-second pause into practice, and I can see how hard it is for him. That effort matters. It's not about him being perfect. It's about him trying, recognizing when he fails and consciously working to do better. On day 11, we find more evidence. Hair samples caught on bark at about 7 feet high, suggesting something tall had passed through and brushed against the tree. The hair is coarse, dark reddish-brown, and doesn't match any known Australian mammal. Michael collects it carefully, documents the location, makes notes about the context. All without me having to remind him. He's learning. That night, Tommy tells us we're in the right area. The signs are good. Tracks, hair, movement in the trees. The Yowie know we're here, but they haven't fled entirely. That means they're deciding whether we're a threat. How do we prove we're not? Ask. By being patient, by respecting their space, by not chasing when they let themselves be seen. You're doing the right things now. I glance at Michael, who looks simultaneously chastised and determined. On day 12, I wake before dawn to use the camp latrine. The sky is just beginning to lighten. That pre-dawn blue that's neither night nor day. I'm walking back to my tent when I see it. A Yowie. Standing at the edge of our camp, maybe 30 feet away, watching. It's massive. Easily 7.5 feet tall. Broad through the shoulders. Covered in reddish-brown hair that's matted and wild. The face is ape-like but with human qualities. Forward-facing eyes showing intelligence. A pronounced brow ridge. A mouth that's neither quite human nor quite gorilla. We stare at each other. I'm frozen, barely breathing. My camera is in the tent. My audio recorder is off. I have no equipment, no way to document this. And somehow that makes it perfect. The Yowie tilts its head, studying me. Not aggressive, not afraid. Just curious, assessing. I can see intelligence in those eyes. See the moment it decides I'm not a threat. Then it turns and walks into the forest. Not running, not crashing away in panic. Just walking, dignified and unhurried, disappearing into the trees like mist in sunlight. I stand there for maybe 5 minutes after it's gone, trying to process what just happened. Then I wake Michael. Day 12, Michael's account. Marion shakes me awake, and I can tell immediately something big happened. Her eyes are wide, her breathing rapid, her whole body vibrating with contained excitement. I saw it, the Yowie. It was in camp. I'm awake instantly. What? When? Did you get photos? No camera, no recorder, nothing. Just me and it, 30 feet apart, watching each other. Part of me is jealous. She got the close encounter I've been chasing this whole investigation. But mostly I'm happy for her, because I can see what this means to her. Tell me everything. She describes it in detail, the size, the coloring, the face, the intelligence in its eyes, the way it assessed her and decided she wasn't a threat, the dignity in how it left. It was magnificent, Michael. Not terrifying like the Wendigo, not unsettling like the Dogman. Just magnificent. A creature that survived here for thousands of years, still thriving, still free. I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad it trusted you enough to let you see it. I wish we had documentation, but you have the experience. Isn't that what you told me in California? That sometimes witnessing is enough. She smiles. Using my own words against me? Just reminding you of your own wisdom. You saw it. You know it exists. That's enough. Tommy comes over, having heard our conversation. The Yowie showed itself to you. That's significant. It means you're trusted, at least enough not to be seen as a threat. Will it come back? Marion asks. Maybe, maybe not. But I think if we're patient, if we stay respectful, we might see it again. Or others like it. That day, we establish a new camp protocol. Someone up before dawn, just being present, not actively watching or searching. Just existing in the space, letting the Yowie get used to us. Marion takes the first shift. I take the second. We rotate like that for 3 days. On the morning of day 15 during my shift, I see it too. Day 15, Michael's account. It's smaller than the one Marion described. Probably a juvenile, maybe 6 feet tall, with lighter coloring and more curiosity than caution. It emerges from the trees and sits on a rock about 40 feet from camp, just watching. I do exactly what Marion did. Nothing. I don't reach for my camera. I don't call out or move. I just sit there, making myself small and non-threatening, letting it observe. We watch each other for maybe 10 minutes. I can see its chest moving with breath, see its fingers flexing on the rock, see the tilt of its head as it tries to figure out what I am. Then an adult appears, larger, darker, clearly the guardian. It makes a low sound, somewhere between a grunt and a huff, and the juvenile immediately moves toward it. They disappear into the forest together. When Marion wakes up and I tell her what happened, I can see her satisfaction that I didn't chase, didn't try to document, didn't do anything except witness respectfully. You're learning, she says. I have a good teacher. You had a good teacher 7 years ago too. You just weren't ready to listen. I'm listening now. Over the next week, we see the Yowie 4 more times, always at dawn or dusk, always at a distance, always brief. We're being observed and evaluated. The creatures are deciding whether we're safe enough to tolerate in their territory. We document what we can: sounds, tracks, hair samples, scat. We record measurements of the territory, map the areas where sightings occur, analyze the habitat requirements. We build a comprehensive understanding of how these creatures live. But we don't chase. We don't pursue. We don't push for closer contact than the Yowie are willing to give. It's the most patient I've ever been in an investigation, and it's yielding the best results I've ever achieved. Day 20, Marion's account. We're preparing to leave deep country tomorrow, heading back toward civilization to process our findings. Tommy needs to return to his responsibilities, and Michael and I have 3 weeks of data to analyze. Tonight, our last night in the valley, we sit by the fire talking about what we've learned. Tommy, you two did good work here. Respectful, patient. The Yowie allowed you to see them because you earned that trust. Marion, Do you think there's a viable population? Enough to survive long-term? Tommy, hard to say. My grandfather thought there were maybe 20 or 30 in the Blue Mountains. Could be more now, could be fewer. But they're survivors. They've adapted to changing conditions for thousands of years. They'll continue. Michael, should we publish what we found? Marion carefully. We have evidence of an unknown primate species in Australia. That's scientifically significant. But we need to present it in a way that emphasizes conservation without creating a cryptid tourism circus. Tommy, the Gundungur people would appreciate being consulted on how information is shared. These mountains are our traditional land, and the Yowie are part of that heritage. Marion, absolutely. We'll work with your community on the appropriate way to release findings. After Tommy goes to his tent, Michael and I sit watching the fire burn down. We did it, he says. We actually worked together successfully. We did. You proved you could be patient when it mattered. You proved you could trust me again. I know that wasn't easy. It wasn't. But you earned it. Day by day, choice by choice, you earned it. Marion, I need to tell you something. He's quiet for a moment, gathering thoughts. When I saw that juvenile Yowie on day 15, my first instinct was to grab my camera, to get the proof, the documentation, the evidence that would make this investigation famous. That impulse was so strong, Marion. It took everything I had to override it. But you did override it, because I kept hearing your voice in my head. What serves the creature best? That's the question you ask yourself, right? In every investigation, every decision. What serves the creature best? That's the question. It's a better question than, how can I prove this? I'm trying to make it my default question too, but it doesn't come naturally yet. I have to fight for it. The fact that you fight for it is what matters. I don't need you to be naturally cautious, Michael. I just need you to be willing to check your impulses when they conflict with ethics. You did that here, repeatedly. So we're good? We're actually partners again. We're getting there. This investigation was a test and we both passed. But we need to keep working at it. Keep communicating, keep checking in, keep making sure we're actually partners and not just two people working in parallel. I can do that. I want to do that. Marion, I've spent 7 years doing this work alone, and it's good work, work I'm proud of. But it's not as good as the work we do together. We balance each other. We always have. Except when we're at each other's throats. Even then, probably. Creative tension and all that. I laugh and it feels good. Natural. Like we're finally finding our rhythm again. Michael, I'm glad we did this. I'm glad we tried. Me too. So what's next? After we write up the Yowie findings? I don't know. But whatever it is, let's do it together. Deal. Day 2125. Michael's account. The hike back to civilization takes 5 days, and it feels like a different journey than the hike in. Going in, Marion and I were cautious around each other, testing boundaries, uncertain whether partnership was possible. Coming out, we're actually a team again. We talk about the Yowie constantly, analyzing what we saw, comparing notes, developing theories about their ecology and behavior. We disagree sometimes, but it's productive disagreement. I push for bold interpretations. Marion reins me in with caution. We find middle ground. It's how we worked before Point Pleasant, before everything went wrong. And it feels right again. Tommy notices the change too. On our last night camping before reaching Katoomba, he says, "You two figured it out." Figured what out? Marion asks. How to be siblings and partners at the same time. That's not easy. But you're doing it now. You trust each other, you communicate, you respect each other's strengths. That's rare. We had to lose it first before we could appreciate it. I say, sometimes that's how wisdom works. You don't value something until it's gone. Back in Katoomba, Marion and I spend 3 days organizing our data and preparing preliminary reports. We work side by side in the cabin, laptops open, notes spread across every surface, coffee fueling long analytical sessions. It reminds me of when we were in graduate school together, before we specialized in different approaches before the split. Just two researchers passionate about the same subject, working toward the same goal. I missed this, Marion says one afternoon. The collaboration. Having someone who actually understands the work, who can challenge my interpretations, who makes the research better by being part of it. Me too. Solo investigations are fine, but this is better. This is what cryptozoology should be. We decide on a publication strategy. Scientific paper. Submit to a peer-reviewed primatology journal, documenting the physical evidence and behavioral observations. Conservation brief. Work with Australian wildlife organizations to advocate for additional habitat protection. Cultural consultation. Partner with Gundungurra communities on how to share findings respectfully. Limited public disclosure. Release enough information to establish that something unknown exists, but not enough to pinpoint locations or enable exploitation. It's Marion's approach, basically. Measured, protective, prioritizing the creature's welfare. But I'm on board with it completely now. Not grudgingly, not because I have to be, but because I genuinely believe it's right. On our last day in Australia before flying home, Marion and I hike to a lookout point with panoramic views of the Blue Mountains. The blue haze hangs over the valleys, the eucalyptus forests stretch endlessly, and somewhere down there in the deep country, the Yowie are going about their lives. They're still out there, Marion says. Still surviving, still free. Thanks to generations of being careful, being hidden, being smart enough to avoid humans who'd exploit them. Do you think we did the right thing? Documenting them at all? Maybe they're better off if nobody knows they exist. They'd be better off if we could trust everyone to respect them. But we can't. So the next best thing is careful documentation by people who actually care about their welfare, who'll use that documentation to protect rather than exploit. When did you become so wise? I had a good teacher. Took me a while to start paying attention, but the lessons eventually sank in. She smiles. We should do this again. Not immediately, we both need time to process and write up. But another investigation a year or two from now. See if this partnership is sustainable long-term. I'd like that. Pick something challenging. Something that requires both our skill sets. Deal. But Michael, if you ever pull another Point Pleasant, if you ever prioritize ego over ethics again, I'm done. For real this time. No more second chances. Understood. And Marion, if I'm slipping, if you see old patterns emerging, tell me. Don't let it fester. We communicate, we course correct, we stay on track together. Deal. We shake on it, then laugh at the formality. But it feels right to make it official, to acknowledge that we're committing to this partnership with clear expectations and boundaries. The flight home is long, and somewhere over the Pacific, Marion falls asleep on my shoulder. We're 36 years old, accomplished cryptozoologists, experienced researchers. But in that moment, we're also just twins who survived something terrible together and found their way back to each other. I think about that night in the Adirondacks. 12 years old, seeing yellow-green eyes in the darkness, holding hands with Marion while something attacked Uncle Dave. How that night fractured us, sending us in opposite directions, creating a rift that took 24 years and countless investigations to finally heal. The Yowie didn't just prove that unknown primates exist. It proved that Marion and I can work together despite our differences, despite our history, despite the hurt we've caused each other. That's worth more than any cryptid documentation. Epilogue, Marion's account 6 months later. It's September 2029, 6 months after returning from Australia. Michael and I have been video calling weekly, coordinating on the Yowie papers, planning future investigations, maintaining the partnership we rebuilt. The scientific paper has been accepted pending revisions. The conservation brief has been adopted by Australian wildlife organizations, leading to additional protections for the Blue Mountains region. The Gundungurra community has approved our public messaging about the findings, emphasizing cultural significance alongside biological importance. It's exactly the kind of outcome I've always wanted from cryptid research, documented evidence leading to real conservation results, with proper respect for indigenous knowledge and community concerns. Michael handled his part of the work flawlessly. Methodical data analysis, careful writing, patience with the peer review process. No shortcuts, no sensationalism, no trying to rush publication for attention. Just good, solid research. Last week, he called with a proposal. There are reports of something in the Congo. A large primate, possibly a surviving population of ground-dwelling gorillas or something unknown. Deep rainforest, challenging conditions, requires extensive cultural consultation with local communities. Want to go? When? Next year. Spring 2030. Gives us time to finish the Yowie work properly and plan the expedition carefully. Who else would be involved? Just us. Well, us and local guides. But research team, just us. The Thatcher twins, back together, doing what we do best. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, let's do it. Really? No extensive deliberation about whether we're ready. We proved we're ready in Australia. Congo will be harder. More remote, more dangerous, more complex culturally and politically. But if we can handle it together, we can handle anything. Marion, are you going soft on me? Where's the cautious, overthinking cryptozoologist I know and love? She's learning to trust her impulsive brother. Don't make me regret it. I won't. Promise. Congo 2030. It's going to be epic. Today I received a package from Michael. Inside was a photograph from Australia, the two of us in the Blue Mountains, sitting on a clifftop overlooking the valley where we saw the Yowie. Tommy had taken it one evening while we were reviewing the day's findings. In the photo, we're laughing about something, heads bent together over a laptop, completely in sync. You can see the partnership in that moment, the ease, the collaboration, the twin connection that's been dormant for 7 years but never truly gone. On the back of the photo, Michael wrote, Marion, we lost 7 years to pride and hurt. Let's not waste any more time. Here's to the Congo and whatever comes after. We're better together. He's right. We are better together. I'm the caution and ethics. He's the boldness and enthusiasm. I'm the analytical mind. He's the field intuition. I'm the long-term planning. He's the immediate problem solving. Separately, we're good cryptozoologists. Together, we're great. I put the photo on my desk, right next to the field notes from that night in 1999. Two 12-year-olds making a promise to understand the creatures in the darkness. Two 36-year-olds finally keeping that promise the right way. The Yowie taught us that some creatures survive by being cautious, some by being bold. The best survive by being both at the right times. Michael and I are learning that lesson too. Epilogue. Michael's account 6 months later. I'm in my office reviewing Congo research when my phone rings. It's Uncle Dave. Michael, how's it going? Good. Really good. Planning another investigation with Marion, Congo next spring. You two are back together then. Really back together, not just tolerating each other for one investigation. Really back together. Australia proved we could work as partners again. Congo will prove we can sustain it. He's quiet for a moment. I'm glad. I've always felt responsible for. Don't. What happened that night wasn't your fault. The creature attacked you. That's on the creature, not on you. But if I hadn't suggested that camping trip, then Marion and I would have encountered something else, somewhere else, some other time. We were always going to end up in cryptozoology. That night just determined when and why. Maybe. I'm proud of you both. For turning trauma into purpose, for finding each other again, for doing important work. After we hang up, I think about that night again. The yellow-green eyes, the screaming, the terror. Marion and I holding hands, making a promise in the darkness. We'll figure out what's out there. We'll understand these creatures. We'll make sure nobody else has to be this scared. We kept that promise. It took us 24 years and we did it in opposite ways for most of that time. But in Australia, we finally figured out how to keep it together. The Yowie is still out there in the Blue Mountains, still surviving, still free. Because Marion and I documented it carefully, protected it fiercely, and prioritized its welfare over our own ambitions. That's the work we should have been doing all along. I pull out the itinerary for Congo flights, equipment lists, contact information for local guides and researchers, preliminary research on the reported primate. It's going to be challenging, possibly dangerous, definitely complicated. But we'll do it together. Marion's caution and my boldness. her ethics and my enthusiasm, her wisdom and my energy. The Thatcher twins back in action. Older, wiser, scarred by 7 years of separation but stronger for having found each other again. The Yowie was our test. The Congo will be our proof that we can sustain this partnership long-term. And I'm ready. We're ready. Because some mysteries are meant to be solved by two people who trust each other completely, who balance each other perfectly, who share the same trauma and the same purpose. Some mysteries are meant for siblings. Some mysteries are meant for us. Joint conclusion, Marion and Michael's account. We're writing this final section together, sitting side by side in Marion's office, trading the laptop back and forth, finishing each other's sentences like we used to before the split. The Yowie exists. We've documented it through multiple sightings, physical evidence, and behavioral observations. It's a previously unknown primate species, or possibly a surviving population of a species thought extinct, living in the remote regions of the Blue Mountains in New South Wales, Australia. Physical description: height, 6 to 8 feet depending on age and sex. Build: powerfully muscled, broad shoulders, long arms. Coloring: reddish-brown to dark brown hair covering entire body except face, palms, and soles. Face: ape-like with human qualities showing high intelligence. Behavior: reclusive, primarily crepuscular, living in family groups, avoiding human contact. Conservation status: the Yowie population appears small but stable. Habitat protection is crucial for long-term survival. We've worked with Australian wildlife organizations and the Gundungurra people to establish additional protections for core areas. Recommendations: continued habitat preservation in the Blue Mountains. Restriction of human activity in areas of highest Yowie concentration. Long-term monitoring by researchers committed to protection over exploitation. Partnership with Aboriginal communities who have traditional knowledge. Careful management of public information to prevent destructive tourism. What we learned, Marion. I learned that trust can be rebuilt, even after years of hurt. That partnership is worth fighting for, even when it's difficult. That my brother is capable of growth beyond what I gave him credit for. That working alone was safe, but working together is better. Michael. I learned that patience is more valuable than aggression, that protection matters more than proof, that listening to wisdom is stronger than asserting ego, that my sister was right all along, and that admitting that doesn't make me weak. It makes me better. Together, we learned that cryptozoology isn't about conquering mysteries or claiming discoveries. It's about witnessing, understanding, and protecting. It's about respecting the unknown while carefully documenting it. It's about putting creatures first and egos last. We learned that twins who were fractured by childhood trauma can heal by facing mysteries together. That the same event can drive people apart but also, eventually, bring them back together. We learned that the best cryptid investigations aren't solo journeys but partnerships where different strengths combine to create something neither person could achieve alone. Most importantly, we learned that some creatures survive by remaining hidden. Some mysteries endure by being protected rather than exposed. And some partnerships, once broken, can become stronger in the mending. The Yowie is still out there, in the deep country, living its ancient life. And we're still out here, the Thatcher twins, documenting mysteries while protecting the creatures that embody them. That night in the Adirondacks. 12 years old, yellow-green eyes in the darkness, making promises we didn't know how to keep. That night started everything. The fear, the obsession, the career, the split, the long road back. We can't change that night. We can't undo the attack on Uncle Dave or the years we spent apart. But we can honor it by doing the work right. By protecting the creatures we study. By working together instead of separately. By remembering that cryptids aren't puzzles to solve or trophies to claim. They're living beings sharing this planet with us, deserving of respect and protection. The Yowie taught us that. Australia taught us that. 24 years of chasing mysteries taught us that. And now, finally, we're ready to move forward together. Next stop, the Congo. Spring 2030. The Thatcher twins, reunited and ready. Some mysteries are meant to be solved alone. Some are meant to change you, And some, the best ones, are meant to be faced with someone who understands exactly why they matter. This is us. This is our work. This is what that night in 1999 was always leading toward. We're ready. Dr. Marion Thatcher and Michael Thatcher, independent cryptozoologists. September 2029. The Yowie exists in the Blue Mountains, surviving because it's learned to remain hidden, to avoid humans, to live quietly in the margins. We documented it carefully and protected it fiercely. That's not just good cryptozoology. It's what siblings do when they finally figure out how to work together. We spent 7 years apart learning the same lessons separately. Now we're spending the rest of our careers applying those lessons together. The Congo awaits, and this time we're facing it as partners, the way we always should have been. Postscript, October 2029. Marion. Michael called me last night, excited about some preliminary findings from Congo contacts. New reports, reliable witnesses, challenging terrain. Everything we'd want in an investigation. But he didn't just tell me about it. He asked what I thought, asked for my analysis, asked whether we should pursue it or wait for more information. He's asking instead of assuming, consulting instead of deciding, being a partner instead of a solo act. That's growth. That's the Michael I can work with long-term. Michael, Marion sent me a revised draft of our Yowie paper today. She'd incorporated some of my bolder interpretations about Yowie intelligence and social structure, things she would have dismissed as speculative 7 years ago. She's taking risks, trusting my insights, being willing to make stronger claims when the evidence supports it. That's growth. That's the Marion I needed her to become. Together, we're not the same cryptozoologists we were in Point Pleasant. We're better. Not perfect, we'll still argue, still disagree, still struggle with our different instincts and approaches. But we're better. The Yowie proved it. The Congo will confirm it. And whatever comes after that, we'll face it together. Because that's what twins do. That's what partners do. That's what cryptozoologists who finally figured out what actually matters do. We protect mysteries. We document carefully. We prioritize creatures over careers. And we do it together. Always together now. The way it should have been all along. End of report. The Thatcher twins have left Australia. The Yowie remains, hidden and protected, surviving as it has for thousands of years. Some endings are actually beginnings. This is one of them.